So why do you think this makes a difference, and how do you implement this strategy in your travels, especially?
I do imply it in all of my travels, and it does make a difference. Oh, a lot. Because I have also done the wrong way. I've done it the wrong way, just, maybe following some advice for some destination, doing what everyone else is doing it. And then, oh God, I was saying it was the wrong thing. So I have really adopted this strategy into my own travels. This is not something that I'm preaching and I'm not doing it. Oh no, I'm very much doing it by myself. And I've realized that sometimes you really need a lot more of planning, more of researching, because obviously if you're researching for a lesser known sites or places, it's not so obvious to find them in the internet, or maybe you have to search a little bit more and find out how do I get there, how I get around, what to expect. It's not like going to Rome to the very classic tour or whatever itinerary. So it's more of a, you have to work a little bit more on the pre-planning and also on arranging your trip. So making sure that you know what to do there, what you can do, what you can't do. So it's a bit more of work, probably, but it is very rewarding, and it doesn't lead to any disappointment, or let's say, I wouldn't say just zero disappointment. Some, things happens anyhow. Even if you go to a lesser known site, you may have something going wrong and you are disappointed, but it does reduce a lot of disappointment with your expectations, and you have a much enjoyable trip. Definitely, you are really.
Are you still here? I can't hear you. Hello?
And I did something extra to places where I couldn't even imagine to go, or maybe I would thought, oh no, I'm not going there. Who knows those places? So it's something that it finally, it's very much a rewarding process.
How would you define your strategy? I mean, I heard that you're planning a lot. Can you make like 3 steps that you're doing or something like that, so people can follow up with what you're doing before your travels and before you go?
Yes, well, the thing that I do usually is identifying a country. Once you have the country, you have to see, is it a small country that I can do in 2 weeks? Yes, it is. Like, for instance, let's say Austria. Can I do it in a couple of weeks? Yes, you can, depending on what you want to do. But you also have to be clear what's the goal of your trip. Do you want to do sightseeing? Are you more of a city person? Do I want to go and visit just a few cities of Austria or whatever, or Switzerland? Or do I want just to have an outdoor trip? So depending on what you're doing, which is a very important thing, then you have to see what your time frame is and how to adjust it to what you want to do. And I find that sometimes cities are very easy to plan, because cities are generally speaking, cities are easy to plan, whereas outdoors activities are not so easy sometimes, because you have to know, if you want to go hiking and you have never been to that country, you have to figure out, can I do it by myself? Can I go on a tour, or can I hire whatever, a car, and then go from there to there? How are the rules for that area? What can I do there? What do I need a permit? So there are quite a few things that you really need to research and to investigate into and look into before committing to a plan. But I belong to the ones who really plan a lot. But I don't do plan a lot, like, for instance, I know exactly what I'm going to do from 9 o'clock to 8 o'clock in the evening. It's not that kind of planning. It's that the more you plan ahead and before of your trip, the lesser you have to plan when you are there. So you have more time to enjoy your time. And not just when you are there, okay, what I'm going to do these few days, I have to plan my trip now when I arrive at destination. I think that that's something that you can do, but you can do it when you have 3-4 months, you have a long-term vacation or holiday, and you say, okay, I don't need to plan 3 months ahead. But if you only have a couple of weeks, how can you possibly dedicate so much time when you're there? So you really need to think of all these strategies. It's something that by you learn it by doing it, and you always learn something new. Even for people like me who are used to travel a lot, you always learn a little bit every time you plan a trip. You say, I did this wrong, probably because of that. So you add a little bit of piece of information to any trip. But that's very important, that you are really good with planning. That's very important.
Sounds amazing. So what if people took advantage of your tips and steps that you're providing? What will happen and how will their travels change?
Well, as I said, they will add this advice and tips, what I'm giving to them, and add them into their own already plan, like a workflow, what they do whenever where they book their trips. And I've seen that many people also came back to me and said, "Oh, I didn't know about that. That's an important thing that I have to consider when I when I plan a trip." I think that by sharing a lot of this information, I also learn from other travelers, and I also learn from these groups that I have on Facebook, because everyone is bringing their own knowledge and their own experience, and I think that this is going to improve the way they're planning, because there are, I tell you, so many things that need to be considered. And sometimes we take it for granted. We just take it for granted. We say, oh, no, it's going to work that way, but it doesn't. In some countries, you expect to have the same similar, like within Europe, you expect that one thing that works good in Italy, it works the same in Germany or in England, but it doesn't. So you have to really consider what's the peculiarity of a country or whatever, and you have to be confronted with so many things, and that's what experience tells you about it. So I think in some ways it's the experience that pays off, and also that tells you how to improve your planning and how to make things easier and smarter. Because lastly, we just want to have a smart planning, a smart trip, without with a less inconvenience, and reduce everything as much as possible, as much as we can. So I think that the big beneficial benefit will be in improving the overall trip planning. So make it easier and flowing, without.
Sounds perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
So